I heard you've been telling everybody that Mandingos ain't no damn good. Ain't nothing nobody is selling is worth buying. I'm curious. What makes you such a Mandingo expert?
I'm curious what makes you so curious.
Well, besides Django Unchained that we just saw a bit of there, tonight we have two films that actually have a very nostalgic meaning to me. Welcome to show number 550 of Reeling. I'm Robin Clifford.
And I'm Laura Clifford. In 1858, 2 years before the advent of the Civil War, bounty hunter Dr. King Schultz, masquerading as a country dentist, approaches some slave traders to see if they have the man he's looking for, a slave who escaped from the brutal Brittle brothers who can identify them. Schultz finds his man, leaving the white traders dead or as good as, and the rest of their stock mystified as to the good luck that just befell them as they see Django Unchained.
You mind telling me what the hell you doing?
I confirmed that Brunhilde is at Candyland.
Sure it's her?
He didn't call her by name, but she's a young lady with marks on her back and speaks German. Now, while it's not wise to assume in this instance, I think it's pretty safe. Point being, don't get so carried away with your retribution. You lose sight of why we're here.
You think I lost sight of that?
Yes, I do. Stop antagonizing Candy. You're going to blow this whole charade, or more than likely get us both killed. And I, for one, don't intend to die in Chickasaw County, Mississippi, USA.
I'm not antagonizing. I'm intriguing him.
I think this is the first of Tarantino's movies classified as an out-and-out comedy. And when you think about it, that's quite a
Well, I mean,
that's quite a feat for him, quite an achievement.
I wouldn't call it an outright comedy.
It's
It
quite,
has an awful lot of funny.
That's what I was about to
funny
say.
stuff to
It's
it.
quite an achievement, given the fact that while his excessive violence is often cartoonish, the depictions of slavery in this are decidedly not. In fact,
Oh, yeah.
they're so brutal that Tarantino actually considered shooting this out of the country because he didn't want to ask black actors to recreate this on American soil,
Yeah,
and I can see why. But this is his spaghetti western via blaxploitation Mandingo revenge film, and it's told in 3 acts, and I found the first of those decidedly the best.
Oh, yes.
And that is
exactly
the
why.
bounty hunters, aka that's a black man riding a horse. And that's, of course, the setup that I just gave, and the wonderful Christoph Waltz,
Terrific.
who won the
What
Oscar.
a nice melding, him and Tarantino.
Yeah, who won
Really
the
is nice.
Oscar for Tarantino's Inglourious Bastards, and he's actually doing a subtle riff on that other character, although here he's a good guy.
Yeah.
But he's excessively polite. He uses a lot of words when a few will do. You know, he's very flowery with his language.
Oh, his whole demeanor, his whole persona is just a wonderful character.
Yeah,
in
he's
this.
absolutely great. And James Fox's Django is okay. He doesn't have quite the charisma on screen as Waltz, but they are fun together, especially when he's learning the ropes and becoming a black bounty hunter.
Yeah.
I particularly love the scene where he's allowed to pick out his own clothes and dresses himself up like little Lord Fauntleroy.
Don't forget Leonardo DiCaprio.
I was just going to say,
Marvelous performance.
3 acts. The second act is Candyland, when they actually go in to rescue Django's wife, Broomhilda. Notice she's named like the old cartoon character rather than the legend Brunhilde.
Yeah.
And DiCaprio's really quite sly in this because he's not quite as smart as he thinks he is, even though he's quite devilish.
Oh, his factotum, played by Sam Jackson, was
his
terrific.
strings are being pulled by Stephen, his house slave, played by Sam Jackson, made up to look just like Uncle Ben, which is quite funny. Of course, the end is the big revenge blowout, and I found that the whole film lost a lot of air when
Once
Waltz
leaves
went
the
out
picture,
of the picture.
yeah, exactly. I agree with you. I gave it a B. I didn't think it was one of his best films because of that reason, that it fell off the track a little bit in the end. Other than that,
Yeah, I gave it a B+. I think he was forced to edit it too quickly.
Undoubtedly. In the early 1960s, the U.S. shores were assaulted by the British music invasion, including such budding talents as the Rolling Stones and the Beatles. Douglas and his buddies, inspired by these and other bands, see themselves as future rock and roll stars and put together a group of their own. But success in ever-changing 1960s are a hard balance for the fledgling musicians in Not Fade Away. This is the first feature film by writing and directing by the Sopranos creator David Chase, and he goes for a period piece at a time when rhythm and blues was evolving into rock and roll, and you had the American rhythm and blues influenced British bands coming and bringing what was essentially an American thing back to America and giving it again as a whole different spin with the British music. I thought this, I was talking about films that had nostalgic meaning to me. The main character, Douglas, and his father, played by James Gandolfini, man, I'm seeing me and my father back then with the arguments about long hair and Vietnam
And I'm
and
sorry,
civil
I
rights.
saw a little bit of your mother with the house coat
And the
curler.
house coat. Oh, yeah. I mean, this reminded me a lot of my growing up. I thought it was a really good debut for David Chase. I gave it a B. I thought it was a good piece of nostalgia.
Yeah, and I think it was very personal to him, of course,
Yeah.
all set where he grew up in New Jersey, and boy, what a completely different father figure in Gandolfini he gives us here. Gandolfini really broke my heart in this. I thought he gave a terrific performance.
He's been doing a lot of good character stuff since The Sopranos.
Yeah,
ended.
he is, and this was my favorite, though. This whole cast was really terrific. You had John Mangaro as the lead character. He was the best thing in a small role in liberal arts. I liked the way they did the tension with him and his buddy Eugene, played by Jack Houston, who's so great as the semi-masked man in Boardwalk Empire. You know, they show how bands are like families, and you know, the love interest thing I didn't find as compelling as the rest of it, and the ending I found to be a little bit pretentious, but it was really true.
It rang true. It really
yeah,
did.
I gave it a B, too. Thief Jean Valjean exhibits incredible strength and fortitude to his jailer Javert, something the colonel recognizes years later when Valjean has remade himself as a well-to-do factory owner and mayor of Montreux. But Javert convinces himself otherwise until years later when they meet on opposite sides of the 1832 People's June Rebellion in Les Miserables. And I chose to be a little bizarre and show this clip featuring Samantha Barks as Eponine giving
Who I really liked in
yes,
this.
what I thought was the
actually.
second best number in this musical. Now, it's taken over 25 years to turn the smash hit Broadway show into a film, and while Anne Hathaway is transcendent performing its most famous song, I Dreamed a Dream, director Tom Hooper seems determined to cut the rest of this epic off at its knees. This is one of the ugliest big-budget award seasons movies to date, with framing that cuts off the top of young Cosette's head,
this is an
close-ups
extreme-
so
yeah.
insistent that the focus puller must have ulcers, and a camera that moves into the underside of Hathaway's chin while Fantine lies dying. Yes, some amount of reveling in dirt and squalor is commendable given the subject matter, but when a close-up of the adult Cosette only shows us facial blotching and peach fuzz, you've gone too far.
Yeah.
And worst of all, I found that there was no dramatic tension at all throughout this movie between Valjean and Javert. Russell Crowe has a steely-eyed gaze
and
throughout
that was
the
about
whole
it.
movie.
Yep, I was, well, for me, too many damn songs. I mean, this is made for musical fans. It's not made for somebody like me.
I did love Samantha Barks, and that was a wonderful number.
But did you notice that was one of the few musical numbers that was shot where you say actually had her whole face in the frame?
There's one original song in this, because of course they're going to go for the original song Oscar called Suddenly. And it's when Valjean is supposed to be connecting with the young Cosette who he has in his lap. They keep the camera on his face. Instead of framing the subject of the song, he frames the singer. And he makes that mistake over and over again.
I gave this a C.
So did I. I
was
will
not
give it a little bit of credit that when they get to the People's Rebellion with the, the Occupy
barricades and
movement,
everything,
the current sensibility there. Yes, there is that you can get a little bit caught up in that, and he finds a good way to end it. But there's so many mistakes. It's a bit here, a bit there, and mostly it's a trial and it's too damn long.
And too many songs.
Yeah, I gave it a
Yeah.
C too.
Natural Gas Corporation consultant Steve Butler, a small-town boy himself, ventures into the economic-stricken heartland of America to find properties ripe for drilling. He makes a sales pitch and starts to buy up lease rights to the land until a local high school teacher and an environmental activist get involved in saving the promised land.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, Mr.
Yates. My name is Frank Yates.
Mr. Yates, are you with an environmental group?
No.
No. Well, what line of work are you in, sir?
I'm a teacher at the high school.
A teacher.
I teach science. What about you, Mr.
Okay, yeah, well, I deserve that. Steve Butler is my name. I'm a consultant here with Global. I only caught the tail end of what you were saying, but you seem like someone who's done his homework. Could I ask you, though, where'd you get your information?
Mr. Butler, you and I both know the information I've been talking about is vast and detailed.
You're probably right. I'm not the guy with all the answers.
Oh, well, then you'd be the perfect guy for them to send here to deny everything.
This is an ambitious work in that it's really trying to make its environmentalist point about the dangers of fracking. And that's we're using hydraulics to drill in order to free gas deposits underground. And the funny thing is that that term and the whole concept of fracking and the dangers of it don't come up for nearly a half hour into the film. A lot of that time, that first half hour or so, was set up in developing the characters when I think it should have been, there should have been more involved as far as the environmental issues of it. It became more of a melodrama as it went on. Matt Damon, as you said, I'd vote for him for president if he ran. He's got a very good presence on the screen. I liked him and John Krasinski, who co-wrote the script, by the way. And
With Damon.
With Damon, yeah. And Gus Van Sant does a solid job, like nothing outrageous, nothing
Certainly
terrific.
better than his earlier film this year, Restless, which was horrible.
Yeah, yeah. So it wears its heart on its sleeve. It does have something to say. Tell you the truth, I would suggest seeing a documentary film called Gasland, which was out a few years ago. That has much more impact on me than this. I gave this a C+.
Yeah, a favorable C+.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
kind of
No, I agree.
waffling a B minus, a C+, but you know, the script here is, I hate to say it, the script is the problem. It's likable because of its cast, but you know, Damon's character, Steve Butler, he's too naive going into this. He seems shocked to find out that maybe he wouldn't be considered a good guy. McDormand's character, his partner, is underwritten.
shallow.
You don't know what she thinks about anything. And there's a twist in this where you suddenly find out that somebody was lying, and the thing that they used to make that discovery is only something that would have bailed a screenwriter out of how to do that, because
how are we gonna do that?
nobody in their right mind would have ever done what they did. They just kind of try to go by it so fast
sleight of
you don't
hand.
stop and think about it. So yeah, it's a pleasant enough film, but it needed more development, I think.
Yeah.
In 1980 East Germany, a beautiful, sophisticated doctor is relocated from Berlin to a pediatric hospital in rural Torgau, where she is kept under constant surveillance and harassed by Stasi officer Klaus Schutz. She makes an intellectual connection with the hospital's chief of staff, Andre, but is he falling for or spying on Barbara? Now, this is Germany's submission for this year's foreign language Oscar, and it's from co-writer-director Christian Petzold. And it's a slow-building character study where looks and actions speak louder than words because of the oppressive political climate that everything is acting out in. This film is sure to draw comparisons with the 2006 foreign language winner, The Lives of Others, but that one was a more complex story that centered on the Stasi officer more. and it was in an urban setting. This is rural, and you very slowly get to learn about this character, Barbara. Petzold just has us observe her, and she seems very cold and aloof at first. She's holding everything close to her chest, and only gradually do you realize that she's got a very slow and methodical plan to escape to the West with her Western lover. And of course, her relationship with Andre, who we see here, who he distracted me. I kept thinking he looked so much like Russell Crowe, is the thing that makes this really compelling, because you don't know where he's coming from. There's this nice central point where he tells her why he ended up there, and you don't know, is this a big story to get her sympathy? Is it the truth? And then there's some wonderful things that go on with two different patients and how they both handle them. It's a really lovely, lovely film. I liked it a lot, and I gave it a B+.
All right.
And it's going to be opening at the Coolidge, sorry.
We first met Pete and Debbie years ago in Knocked Up. Now, married with children, the couple is at that critical crossroads in their lives when they realize that this is 40.
I don't know. It makes no sense at all.
It makes no sense.
And you get so mad at me.
Oh my
I feel like
gosh.
you want to kill me.
I do want to kill you.
How would you do it?
Oh no. I poison you. I poison your cupcakes that you pretend not to eat every day, and just put like enough in to just slowly weaken you.
I love it.
I would enjoy our last few months together.
Me too.
Because you'd be so weak and like sweet, and I could take care of you, but while killing you.
See, you know what I love about us? You can still surprise me. I figured for sure you'd knock me out with one fell swoop of poison, but you would extend it over a series of months.
Have you ever thought about killing me?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Sure.
How would you do it?
Wood chipper.
A wood chipper?
Yeah.
A wood chipper?
Yeah.
Wow.
I know. Did you see Fargo?
Yeah?
People like this don't exist in real life. I'm sorry. In this universe, this cast of characters, the fathers, the inane relationships they have with younger women, and just this whole thing about, well, basically, this wasn't goofy funny, which is what we're used to from Apatow. This has actually had a bitterness to it. That scene right there, they're talking about how to kill each other.
I thought
That's
that
funny?
I thought it was amusing.
Yeah, well, yeah, you probably thought about it a lot, but you know, not me. Anyway, you know, I've had it with Apatow. I really have. He's worn out his welcome with me, and I didn't really have all that much of a welcome for him in the first place. I gave this a C-. This is just it is his self-indulgence. That's all I could see in it, and I'm not prepared for his
it's
self-indulgence.
obviously an extremely autobiographical thing.
Yeah.
And it leaves your mouth agape when people that are talking about being broke throw lavish catered parties and whatnot.
Yeah, it's costing tens of thousands of dollars. I gave it a C-.
Yeah, there was also way too much raunch in this. I mean, I'm sorry, husbands do not ask wives to give them proctology exams.
No.
But on the other
that.
hand, I did find it a little funnier than you did, and I gave it a C+. Andy Brewster is about to make a cross-country trip, meeting with retailers to try and sell the safe and organic cleaning product he's developed, and he's down to his last $700, and it's going to start on the opposite coast in New York. That's where Andy's mother Joyce lives, and phone calls begin to escalate as his departure grows closer. Andy is surprised, though, to learn a secret from his mother's pre-marriage past about the love of her life, who he has just learned he was named after. And so Andy locates the man who might deflect his mother's stifling attentions, adds a fake meeting in San Francisco to his itinerary, crosses his fingers, and invites her along on the guilt trip.
Andy! Woo! You! Andy! 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 I'm over here! Honey!
Hey, Ma.
I'm over here!
I see you. Hey. All of Newark sees you. Hi there. Hey, Ma.
Oh, my God.
Oh, good to see you.
You.
Yes.
Look at you.
Look
oh,
at
my
me.
God.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Okay, let's get out of the
wearing
way
a
here.
Sports jacket.
Yeah, I am.
How did you know even to buy a sports
I
jacket?
took a class in it.
Look
yeah.
at this. Oh, my God. Honey,
Yeah,
look,
that's
you left the price tag on. J. Crew, my fancy schmancy son.
Yeah, that's
wow.
me.
I'm just going to keep it in case it goes on sale.
Okay, great.
Sorry about that, folks. That's what you get for trying to do a show when you've got the intestinal flu. But this is from screenwriter Dan Fogelman, who based it on personal experience. It's dedicated to his mother, Joyce. And while a lot of the plot is really very cliched, you know what's going to happen. You know, there's romantic stuff to be resolved on both sides. You know that mom's going to be the one that's going to figure out how to get her son, who's not a salesman, to be able to sell his
And
product.
all of these things should have bothered me going into this, but not when I came out of it.
These two are just so good together.
Wonderful.
And not only that, Streisand hasn't carried a film like this in quite a long time. And first of all, she looks great in this. They've made her look at least 10 years younger, very soft. And she's just so warm and funny in it, though. She
does good shtick.
Yep.
You know,
and
the good mom
and
shtick.
a lot of it is just these two riffing. It's not they just went with it. In fact, stay for the closing credits and you'll see them just carry on and on and on. They're terrific
One of the things
together.
that we rarely do. There was a Q&A after we saw this one. We stayed for it. I like Babs now. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. I gave this a B, a solid B, and I mean a solid B. And the one thing that was missing from the film was Seth Rogen's characteristic laugh. And boy, in the quick Q&A, we got a lot of that because he was just riffing on her. It was funny. Very, very well done.
Yeah, they're wonderful together. I gave it a B-, maybe a little harsh, only because you could see all the artifice.
The Shire is a peaceful place to live with its rolling hills and comfy homes. That is until a famous wizard, Gandalf the Grey, visits a certain resident named Bilbo Baggins in the Shire and leaves a magical mark on his front door. Suddenly the house is full of hungry dwarves, and Gandalf announces that they are about to undertake a great adventure, including Bilbo in The Hobbit, an unexpected journey. This is part one, believe it or not, of 3, and I'm going to assume they're going to be about 3 hours each. 3 hours, so this is going to be a 9-hour version of The Hobbit, which was a regular length novel back when Tolkien wrote it. There is an awful lot of padding here that I think is unnecessary. I believe that it's just a means of making a lot more money.
This is for the Middle-earth fanatics. Jackson went back to the footnotes from the Lord of the Rings novels.
And he embellished on it, yes, I know.
To add all that into the Hobbit story.
And the effects are terrific. The effects are great. It's really in the format that it was shot.
Andy Serkis is mind-blowing again as Gollum, who looks better than ever. But yeah, as good as the effects are, some of the simpler things called attention to themselves, like the CGI smoke when people were smoking. It didn't look integrated into the picture. And the forced perspective with Gandalf supposedly looking so much bigger than the dwarves looked odd in places.
Well, they got out of perspective a couple of times. Sometimes he was bigger, sometimes he was smaller.
And yet the things that were completely made up from nothing looked awesome.
And was it the goblins were the coolest things? Was the goblins or the trolls? The trolls are great.
The three
trolls
are a lot of fun.
And that's taken right from the book.
Yeah, but I found this to be like a journey. There's these unexpected discoveries every now and then a lot of tedium.
And a lot of talking.
And this was shot in 48 frames per second. See every blade of grass. A lot of people aren't going to like it. I wasn't crazy about it, except when the scenes were dark. It helped you see them better.
Yeah, it does.
I gave it a C+ overall. You surprised me.
I gave it a B.
I know, you surprised me.
Well, I mean, Gollum and Bilbo in the end, the last final scene.
Anyway, we're also going to be showing our top 10 lists for 2012 tonight, starting with Robbins, I think. There it is.
Yeah, Lincoln, hands down, was my favorite film of the year. And surprisingly, a little French film called Holy Motors comes in a very strong second, with The Masters and another foreign film, Once Upon a Time in Anatolia, coming in fourth. Most of the films on my list, they're pretty big for the Oscars. A lot of moneymakers here. And, you know, it was a big, different year for for
Yeah.
the awards. There's
What-
a lot of big films this year.
One thing that I think is funny, we both have a James Bond film on our top 10 list, and we both put Zero Dark 30, which has been a huge favorite in Critics Award, at number 10. I'll be interested to see it again, but I did have some problems with it. Yeah, Holy Motors for me and Once Upon a Time in Anatolia were just both so great and yet so different that I couldn't decide between them. They were hands down. And I'm sorry, but I thought The Master was the truly, truly great American film of
Lincoln,
the year.
Lincoln.
Yeah, I liked Lincoln a lot. Didn't quite make it onto my top 10 list. In any event, here's what we thought of the 8 movies we just reviewed on this edition of Reeling. I should note Jack Reacher, the new Tom Cruise movie, is screening right now, so we couldn't talk about that tonight. Billy Crystal's Parental Guidance isn't screening at all. And also opening is Monsters, Inc. in 3D, which is my personal Pixar favorite ever, Monsters, Inc. But as you can see, yep, we liked Tarantino and
Yep.
a number of other good
a lot of good
films
films
there.
out now.
And we're going to be back next time with Zero Dark 30, The Impossible, and a bunch of January programming from Boston's Museum of Fine Arts. Good night, everyone.
Thanks for joining us, folks. See you next time.
Life can sometimes seem ordinary. So it's natural to crave something more. To hunger for something that you can't describe. As it turns out, all you have to do is step inside.